Is it worth buying the Nikon Z6ii if you want to photograph birds in flight? Today, that's what we're going to discuss. How good is the Nikon Z6ii for photographing birds in flight? Stay tuned. Now I've had my Nikon Z6ii for around 5 weeks, and about 4 weeks ago I did this video on my new wildlife setup with the Nikon Z6ii and the Nikon 200-500mm. In that video I did state my primary goal was to photograph birds and also capture awesome video of birds, because the Z6ii is great for photographing video, and that's why I sold my D500. I also said that if your primary focus of photographing birds is birds in flight, then don't look at the Z6ii because you're going to be disappointed. And I also stated that I hadn't done a lot of birds in flight photography. I've only had the chance in the last week or so of really going out and took a lot of birds in flight photos and show you how good the Z6ii is for birds in flight. Now, there is a caveat here. I'm not using the continuous extended mode, which can give you 14 frames per second, because there are a lot of problems with that. You can only select really center point, and you're getting so much blackout between frames that it's going to be very hard to track. So the shooting mode that I was using is high continuous at around 5.5 frames per second. Now, I'm not the best at photographing birds in flight. Even when I had my D500, I think in the 18 months that I had it, I think my average success rate was around 70%, because I don't excel at it, and I admit that. Photographing birds that are just moving around slowly, or negret catching fish, yep, I excel in that. But birds in flight, that's been my nemesis. It's been something that I've had to work on, and I'm still not perfect at it. Today I'm going to show you how good and the drawbacks of using the Z6ii for bird photography, especially if you're using the Nikon 200-500. Now, you have to understand that 200-500 isn't the fastest lens around. Now, if you're using the Z100-400mm, you'd probably get a better success rate because it's a much quicker focusing lens. Today, we're talking about using my gear, because I know there's quite a lot of people that are thinking of moving from a digital SLR Nikon to a Z series camera to photograph birds. Now, I photograph the birds in 2 different modes, in FX mode and in DX mode. The reason I chose DX sometimes is because my bird was a certain distance away. And when you're in DX mode, you're actually cropping the image, but it means that your focus point, your target, is much easier to acquire for the camera. So you're making things much easier for the camera. So let's take a look at some of these photos, and I'll show you the good and the bad of using the Z6ii for birds in flight. Now, the first set of photos, I was in FX mode. 21 photos were taken, 15 were in focus, 6 were out of focus. The bird was slightly overexposed because I'd just been taking other photos. It was a bit dark. I used exposure compensation. I just got caught out that I didn't reset exposure compensation. I was able to get 15 photos in focus and only 6 out of focus. Now, like I said, I'm not the best at photographing birds in flight. This set here are some ducks taken around 15 minutes later, and you can see now the ducks are flying left to right. These ducks were flying at Mach 1. They just flew so quickly across the screen. You can see the background is just moving so quickly because they'd really be moving. Now, this next set is of a great crested tern. You can see now we're in DX mode. 17 photos were taken, 14 in focus, only 3 out of focus. And I just got this crested tern. Has it caught a fish? You can see why I say DX mode is better, because look, it's a big box, fairly easy to keep the bird in the box. This is where the Z6ii really struggled. The pelican was only about 14 meters away from me and quickly just took off, flew right towards me to catch a fish, and the camera just couldn't keep up. I took 14 photos, only 5 were in focus, 11 were out of focus. You see just how quickly it came towards me, and it only reattained focus right here, the last couple of frames. Now, in this set, the pelicans were flying away from me, and look at the difference. 14 photos were taken again, and I got 11 in focus, which was a much better outcome. And I was also in DX mode here. this set, it was another pelican that had taken off and he was just trying to climb up into the sky. I'm in DX mode and look, 14 photos were taken, 14 in focus. Even though the focus point sometimes wasn't on the pelican, they were all in focus. This last set was the same pelican. He'd seen a fish, took off from his position here and dived for a fish which was about 10 meters in front of him. I'm again in DX mode. You can see like how quickly this happens. Couple of flaps and dives down and grabs his fish. Now before I go any further, all the photos you saw here, I've made a folder and they're in the description below. You can download them as a zip file from my website. If you want to take a look at all these photos, feel free to download them. Sometimes I had good results, sometimes I had bad results. That's the joy of photography, and that's my limitation. I'm not the best at photographing birds in flight. A lot of people aren't. Photographing birds in flight for me, because of my shakes, isn't the best, but I'm still very happy with the results that I'm getting. And like I've stated a few times, if your main goal for photographing birds is birds in flight, then don't look at the Nikon Z6ii. Don't look at the Nikon Z7 or any of the other Nikons apart from the Z9, because you're going to be disappointed. For me, I look at the Z6ii, the mirrorless version of the Nikon D750 that I had. It was a great full frame camera. It was like jack of all trades, but master of none. And this is the Z6ii. It's a jack of all trades camera, but it is master of none. Would I like it to be better? Yes, but I was fully aware when I bought the Z6ii that birds in flight, that action photography was going to be a struggle. I understood that, but I still bought it because, like I stated in previous videos, my goal for this channel was to produce more video content using my Nikon camera, and the D500 couldn't do that. Now with the Z6ii, I can take awesome video, and I got some awesome video of the pelican diving around, catching fish, of other birds moving around. I really hope that Nikon bring out a firmware so that we can have eye autofocus for birds. If this gets put on to the Z6ii, then it is going to be a great camera at an affordable price, because not everybody has $9,000 to splurge to a Z9. So is the Nikon Z6ii a worthy bird photographer's camera? To me it is, because only around, let's say, 20% of my photography is birds in flight. I'm willing to compensate on that. Birds that are just moving around slowly and egret, catching fish and all that, I don't have any problems at all photographing them. If you're happy that saying, okay, well, realistically, when I look, only 20-25% of my photography is bird in flight, then buy the Z6ii, because you're going to be really happy with it. The photos are just awesome. They're so clear. At ISO 6400, I still get very clean images, unlike the D500. Thanks for watching. If you've got any comments or questions, leave it in the comment box below. If you enjoyed the video, give me a big thumbs up. Stay safe, enjoy your bird photography, and I'll see you next time.